been a homemaker for several years or you're just starting out, we all want the same thing, and that is to be a good homemaker. So today I wanted to share with you 8 tips on how you can be a better homemaker when you're not actually that good at it. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to share is to stop comparing. You've probably heard this before, but comparing yourself to others is absolutely not going to bring you anything. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it truly is. When you go on Instagram or Pinterest or any social media platform, when you open up a magazine, when you go to a friend's house even, you might feel like you're not doing that great. Their house looks amazing, it's spotless, there's no dust or clutter anywhere, and you're not doing a great job. Well, the reality is, you only see a snapshot of their life, whether that is on Instagram, where it's just a picture, or actually going over to a friend's house and you see what they want you to see because they probably picked up everything and cleaned everything before you came over. That is not reality. What does their house look like when you're not there? What is the true state of their home? Is it always clutter-free, or is it just because you came over? Does it always look spotless, or is it just because they wanted to take that Instagram picture? It really is not a good reflection of reality because they just show you what they want you to see. So please stop comparing yourself to all those people online that show you the perfect picture. Now, the second thing is to dress for success, because whether you wake up at 5 or at 7, if you don't get dressed and you don't make sure that you feel good, your entire day is ruined. When I wake up and I stay in my pajamas, I throw on a robe, go downstairs, my entire day goes bad. I feel sluggish, I look sluggish, and it's just not good for anybody. But when I wake up and I decide, you know what, I'm gonna pick a nice dress or even just a jeans with a nice t-shirt or something, I go to the bathroom, I get dressed, I put on my makeup, I make sure that I feel good and I look good. It makes my day go so much better because I feel like I am dressed for the task. I truly feel much better when I do that, and it actually shows in what I do around the house, and it shows in what I show my family, because honestly, when I'm at home and I don't get dressed and I just stay in my pajamas all day, what message does that give to my husband? That I don't think it is important enough to get dressed for him, or that I don't think it's important enough for my kids to show them that I want to look good. I really want to make sure that they see the best of me because they are the most important part of my life. So I want to look my very best for them, and not only when I go outside, when I go to a party or to church or whatever it is. I want to look my very best at home as well as outside, not just for other people, but for my own family too. So that is something that I truly feel very passionate about. Dress for success, because you will do a much better job at homemaking when you look good and when you feel good. Now, the third one is to prioritize. Now, one of the worst things you can do as a homemaker is do a whole lot of things that are not important. I mean, you can be so busy with a lot of random things that you actually forget to put dinner on the table. And is that what you want? No, of course not. You want to do the things that are important to you. So make sure you prioritize what needs to get done instead of just doing a bunch of busy work. Now, doing all those things doesn't make you a good homemaker, it just makes you busy. So make sure that you focus on the things that are important. Write down 2 or 3 things that are important to you that you're gonna focus on throughout the day. And that might look different for everybody. Some people might write down doing homeschooling, some might write down decluttering a certain spot in the house, or maybe you even want to just make sure that your dishes are done at the end of the night, which is very important. So write down what is important for you on that day and don't overdo it. Make sure that you can actually do those 3 things that you put on your list and focus on those. Can you do more during the day? Awesome. If you can't, that's okay. These are the 3 things that you're gonna focus on, and those are the most important things you're gonna do today. So write those down and work around that. Now that actually brings me to number 4, because that is to create a schedule or to create a plan for your day. Because again, if you don't know what you're gonna do, if you don't know what your priorities are, you might actually do a whole bunch of things that are not that important. So make sure you create a schedule and you create a routine to follow for you and your family that are actually gonna help you. Now, I am not a fan of scheduling your day minute by minute. I really don't like even planning my day to the hour. I like having rhythms. Now, what I like to do is we have breakfast in the morning and then our children go and play, and I usually look at them If they are done after half an hour and they could really do schoolwork, then we will go and sit at the desk and do our schoolwork. But if they need to run around an hour longer because they have so much energy, then they can run around an hour longer. I don't really care as long as we do all the things that are on my list. So I really look at what works in that moment. And then we have schoolwork, after school we have lunch, then our children go upstairs, and then we have homemaking. So whether we have our school go from 9 to 12 or from 9:30 to 12:30 doesn't really matter to me. The most important thing is we get those things done. Now, along with creating a routine is actually meal planning. Now, you can go as crazy or as simple with this as you want. You can create a meal plan for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all the things, or you can plan meals very loosely just for dinner. But just do what works for your family. For our family, for example, it doesn't work to plan out our breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all the things. I just plan out our dinners and I make sure I have everything in the house to create our dinners. And that is actually very flexible too. I just make sure I have all the ingredients for all the dinners that I put on my list for that week. And if I put some elaborate dinner on Tuesday and it doesn't work, then I can put the spaghetti that I had on Wednesday on a Tuesday. That's fine because I have all the ingredients for all the dinners. It can be, like I said, it can be as crazy as you want, but do what works for your family. And one of the things that really helps me is to make sure that I have ingredients around the house for at least 2 to 3 dinners. So whatever happens, I can always make a pasta with pesto because I always have pesto, I always have chicken, and I always have spaghetti. So I can always make that if I need to come up with a quick dinner. I really do have a bunch of meals that I can always make because I make sure that I have all those items in stock. So that is another tip that I really wanted to give you, to make sure that you have enough ingredients for 2 to 3 meals, just so that you can always put a delicious, nutritious meal on the table, whatever your day looked like. Now, the next thing that is really gonna help you be a good homemaker is to declutter, or to figure out your stuff. What do you do with your stuff? Where do you put all your items? And it doesn't mean that you need to become a minimalist, because I am by no means a minimalist. I love having lesser items, and I'm actually doing a declutter challenge right now for myself, but it doesn't actually mean that I want to be a minimalist, because I do like my things, you know, I like having a candle or a plant or things like that around the house, but I do know that having more stuff means more work. So having more clothes means more laundry. Having more plates means I have to do more dishes. So it really helps to reduce the amount of things that you have, just to reduce the amount of work that you have. So decluttering is something that I really embraced for our children because, number one, it saves you a whole lot of mess. Because when you have 10 baskets, they empty out all the 10 baskets and everything is on the floor. And when you have just 2, it really does make a lot of difference in the visual clutter. But also it really helps your child to clean up after themselves, because when there are 10 baskets emptied out on the floor, it is very overwhelming for them. And that usually means that you as a mom need to help them to clean up the mess. But for us, we decided to have just 2 baskets in the living room. That is what they play with. And we rotate those toys because now they can actually clean up the toys themselves, because it's not that much and they can just do it themselves. And that is amazing because children can actually clean up after themselves. You don't have to do everything as their mother. You're not their maid. You are their mom, and you can teach them to clean up their own messes. So that's a bonus point. But it really helps to keep the number of items for your child reduced as well, because when they have 10 different toys to play with, they usually don't really know what to play with. But when they have just 2 or 3, it really makes it a lot easier to choose between 2 or 3 things than between 10. So it will help them play better independently, but it will also help them to clean up better after themselves. Now, when it comes to having a big to-do list and having all the things that you need to do as a homemaker, one of the best tips that I've ever heard is from Elizabeth Elliot, and she said, just do the next thing, which is so simple, yet it's so amazing. Because often when I make a huge to-do list because I want to do a deep clean of our house, I write down everything that needs to get done, and it instantly gives me overwhelmed, because when I look at that list, I think, wow, that is 20 things I need to clean today. How am I ever gonna do that? So when you have your entire to-do list, focus on the next item that is on your list and do that thing first. Don't look at the rest of your list, just look at the next thing that is on it. Do that thing, finish it completely, and then go to the next task. And you will be amazed at how many things you can actually do on a given day, because you just keep doing the next thing. And before you know it, you finish your entire to-do list and you didn't even think about all the things beforehand. You just did them. Now, the last thing I wrote down is to take good care of yourself. And in order to be a good homemaker, you really need to make sure that you take good care of yourself. Now, I don't mean that you need to have an hour or 2 hours every day that you go out of the house and take time for you and yourself, because that is not something that I do, and I don't think that is necessary. If you want to go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, then by all means go to the gym if that is what you want. But I do believe that you can have great time for yourself to rejuvenate yourself just being at home in 10 or 20 minutes. The most important thing is that you sit down, you relax, and you really take time to just be still and to be with Jesus and to read his word and to pray and to really let yourself be filled up with what God wants to tell you, because that is what is actually important. Not necessarily going out of the house and stepping away from your home and your family. The most important thing is that you need to fill yourself up with his peace and his quiet and his rest, because that is the only rest that is truly going to give you rest. So when you are somebody that constantly tries to go out of the house in order to find that rest and trying to chase that rest, try staying at home next time and sit down in a nice comfy chair, grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just read God's word and let his rest fill you up, because that is so much better and that is the only rest that you truly need. And another thing that is going to help you to take good care of yourself is to make sure that you sleep well and that you eat well and that you do the things that you need to do in order to be a good homemaker. Because you can do a lot of things. You can be the maid, if you will, of the home, and you can constantly be doing a bunch of things. But if you don't sleep well, you're not going to be the best homemaker, especially in time, because if you don't sleep well every single night, it's going to reflect in your homemaking. So make sure that you take good care of yourself. So sleep, and if you need to take a nap during the day when your children are playing upstairs, then take a nap. So make sure you actually take really good care of yourself by eating well, by doing your exercises or going on a walk or sleeping more if that is what you need. And make sure you take good care of yourself so that you can give the best in your home. Now, the last thing that I wanted to add is probably tip number 9, and that is to stay close to God. Whatever you do, the only thing that is going to make you a good homemaker is by doing what God tells you to do. So make sure you have time every single day where you just sit with him. Like I mentioned in my previous tip, it is really important to spend time with God and let him fill you up and let him give you rest. Because when you sit down and you feel his love, that is going to make it so much easier to actually share that love and to bless your family with that same love. So that is something I really wanted to add in as well, because that is something that I do whenever I don't feel great. And when I think I'm not doing a great job, I just sit down, I read his word. And even if it's just 2 minutes while the kids are playing, I make sure that I read his word and I read what he says about me. And I make sure that I let myself be filled up with his presence before I do anything else. So I wanted to add that in as well, because I do think that is one of the most important things we can do as homemakers, and especially as Christian homemakers. Now, I really hope that these 8 or 9 tips actually encouraged you and inspired you to be a really good homemaker. And I hope that you take away from this that we can all be good homemakers as long as we keep pursuing being a good homemaker. So I really hope that you love this video. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video.